Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at the upcoming releases for this February. We got some big ones this month, so let's dive right in. Starting out with a bang here is the highly anticipated Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Unfortunately, and surprisingly enough, I never ended up getting around to playing the original. Actually, while writing this, I was like second guessing myself, like, did I play it? So I checked my Steam library, and the only kingdom that popped up was Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, which was also a fantastic game, by the way, but that aside, as for the original Kingdom Come Deliverance, while I've not played it myself, I have heard pretty much nothing but universal praise for the game, so I'm quite interested and looking forward to checking out the sequel. Like its predecessor, this is going to be a story-driven open-world action combat role-playing game. One of its big selling points is the fact that it aims to deliver an authentic medieval experience, and from what I've heard, it does just that, at least as authentic as a game can get, I suppose. Now, beyond the setting and the storytelling, they also present players with a multitude of ways to complete the game's various quests and objectives. So you might come across a local who asks you to retrieve this family heirloom stolen by a group of bandits. Then from there, you could choose, as an example, to go up to the bandits directly and bribe them, trying to pay them for the heirloom. Or you could sneak into their camp at night, stealing the heirloom while they're sleeping, or poisoning their food, and so they die and you take it from them. Or you might follow those bandits after they leave the camp, headed out to hunt in the woods or something, and then take the heirloom back by force, i.e. engage them in direct combat. And now that is just one hypothetical example of the various potential options of dealing with the many objectives that you'll encounter in this game. Then beyond that, depending on the decisions that you make, NPCs and the world will react accordingly. So in this hypothetical scenario, you might come 100 hours later to find that the bandits that you killed were actually the rightful owners of said heirloom, and that local just duped you into stealing the item for them. So, and then this could of course have unforeseen consequences on the outcome of your individual playthrough. Now, outside of that stuff, combat is another major selling point, with them aiming to deliver, quote, authentic first-person melee engagements. One of the big standouts here is this fairly in-depth directional attack and defense system that kind of reminds me of Chivalry, but with a seemingly more depth and nuance. So you're going to have to react in real-time battles to what your opponent is doing, deflecting incoming attacks at the proper angles, and countering whenever the opportunity arises. It's also made more realistic in the sense that taking on more than a single opponent can be extremely deadly. The game offers a variety of authentic weapons to suit different playstyles and preferences, with many different bladed, blunt, and ranged options to pick from, which you will use while fighting face-to-face on foot, riding horseback, or sneaking up to unsuspecting foes from the shadows. The open world of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is said to be twice as large as that of the first game. However, I'll add that they've said it's not one large, seamlessly connected world, but instead two big, freely explorable spaces. The first one being Bohemian Paradise, which is called a cultural landscape with lots of nature, while the other is the city of Kutna Hora, called by its German name Kuttenberg in-game, and then all of its surroundings. You're going to be exploring bustling city streets full of NPCs. There's hidden caves, elaborate castles, and deep, lush forest with many dangers all throughout. Now, according to the developer Warhorse Studios, the base game of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 will take most players around 80 to 100 hours to beat, and that excludes any planned DLC. And they've also said no need to have played the original, as this will be totally accessible for brand new players, which is welcome news for me. Yeah, I mean, after looking into it, this is seemingly quite good from the early previews that I've seen. I've heard it is very much so more of the original, but taken even further with its systems, features, and content all much improved. That plus just way more space for us to explore. This looks and sounds very fun. I cannot wait. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is set to release on February 4th for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Next up this month is Civilization 7, the award-winning strategy game franchise, here with its latest chapter. A quick blurb from the devs describe it as follows. In Civilization 7, your strategic decisions shape the unique cultural lineage of your evolving empire, rule as one of many legendary leaders from throughout history, and steer the course of your story by choosing a new civilization to represent your empire in each age of human advancement. In terms of what you will be doing, will that consist of constructing cities and architectural wonders that expand your territory, improving improving your civilization by researching technological breakthroughs, and then conquering and or cooperating with rival civilizations as you explore the far reaches of the world. So the game includes both a solo campaign along with the ability to play others in online multiplayer. And then there's of course the main thing about Civ games that I've always found interesting, and that is the fact that it lets you choose whether to follow a path rooted in historical accuracy or make decisions that result in ahistorical outcomes. Some other features of Civ 7 include the fact that you move through these distinct ages, each with their own landmarks, which beyond the story elements include unique playable civs, resources, explorable lands, and even entirely new gameplay systems that are unique to each particular age. As you go through the ages, based on the decisions you make, you will craft and evolve your empire. This translates into things like unlocking new gameplay bonuses and units. And being a strategy game, you play as the leader of your civilization, making decisions from up high. Civ 7 is said to offer the franchise's most diverse roster ever, with each leader coming with unique abilities that can be further improved with customizable attributes. And one big change here, and the first for the franchise, is that they're going to let you choose leaders that are separate from your chosen civilization, which just opens up a whole suite of new options, essentially. They've ramped up the depth and detail of the game world with different empires, including many of the expected aesthetic changes, like the look of your buildings and your units. And then as you expand territory, your cities develop further, and this comes with nice in-engine rendered vistas, where you can kind of see the entirety of your expanded empire. And then there is competitive multiplayer. You're gonna face off against players online in matches that can be either multi-age campaigns that take a very long time, or ones that take place within a single age for a faster paced, quicker turnaround. They've even got cross-play support between PC and consoles as well, which is always nice. After putting this together, I gotta say I'm actually quite interested in giving this one a look. Civilization 7 releases on February 11th, coming to PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. Next up, we have got Avowed, a new first-person fantasy RPG from Obsidian Entertainment. Now, I got to play a preview of this game a few months back and came away from that experience pleasantly surprised. Here's just a quick recap of what I saw, along with my general thoughts from that early preview. So the basics of the story are that you've been sent on this mission to help the people of the living lands who are dealing with this plague that's wreaking havoc on the people, creatures, and environment. Now, as for the game's overall structure, well, one big takeaway for me after playing was that it kind of felt like a more condensed, jam-packed version of something like Skyrim. Although one big difference with this game is that it is not fully entirely open world, but rather having these large open zones. You get these big single zones that you're free to explore within their bounds, but yes, there are bounds around the edges. Now that said, the one zone that I had access to in the preview was rather substantial, taking me nearly 20 hours to see and do everything. Now this was like 100% completionist style exploration of everything that we had access to within that first zone, which I should add also excluded an entire large city at its center. But yeah, if you're like checking out every nook and cranny, doing all the main and side quests, like I said, it took me like 20 hours to go through one zone, and the final game looks to have a few more beyond that. In terms of what you will be doing and seeing here, well, it's an open zone fantasy RPG. So you're going to wander around the environment, explore different points of interest, looking for loot, talking to NPCs, and picking fights with bandits, lizards, skeletons, spiders, and all sorts of other fantasy creatures. The first zone that we had access to was pretty dense with points of interest and places to see. In fact, I counted in total 35 named areas in that preview. And as you may have noticed by this footage, the game does have a heavy exploration emphasis. There's stuff to find everywhere. You move through the world through winding paths, ledges, and scaffolding, many of these leading to hidden areas with some treasure or valuables. You can mantle onto pretty much everything within the environment, and the world is full of like these contextual blockades you can bypass, like walls that can be charged or blown open through, webs that can be burned, gates that can be frozen and weakened, etc. As for the combat, I thought it was pretty good. I know it looks a little funky on the footage, but actually playing it felt like a bit of a different experience. Like I enjoyed it, mainly playing melee. I went with a fighter build using a shield and one-handed weapon, while having an offhand musket that I occasionally use for range combat. But yeah, everything just had a nice sense of impact for me. You got basic and heavy attacks with a block, dodge, and parry, and the whole combat system revolves around you balancing attack cadence to manage a stamina meter so you don't get drained, using your basic abilities combined with some specialty skills as well. Beyond all that, other systems and features include a companion system. They're basically with you the entire time. Beyond having some additional dialogue and quips throughout your adventures, they can help in combat combat with their own skill customization. There's a party camp where you can rest, pass time, store items, craft food, upgrade gear, and get special passive buffs. And there's just loads of various forms of power progression with 4 different skill trees to pick various abilities from, get character stats to level up, and then gear with all sorts of bonuses and perks so that you can collect and improve. Yeah, in general, I enjoyed my time with the limited portion of the game that I saw. I loved the detail of the world, the hunting for loot. I thought combat felt good. It was all generally polished, had interesting characters, and a dash of humor. As for my initial feedback and negative points, well, I'll say that overall, I don't really like the look of the UI, especially the combat UI elements just feel a little off from the rest of the game. The performance was a little bit touch and go, and for as densely packed as the world was, it also tended to feel a bit static at times. Overall, also, I felt it was a bit hand-holdy with some rather simplistic puzzles and mostly linear paths, although maybe that changes in the later game zones, we will see. But yes, overall, I liked it. I'm looking forward to seeing more. Avowed launches on February 18th for PC and Xbox. Monster Hunter Wilds is a game that I can already say with a fairly high degree of confidence is probably going to be really good. There was a playtest a while back. Lots of people got to check out the game early, myself included, and yeah, I came away from that thinking, hey, this is certainly more Monster Hunter, like to a T. Just a couple of notes. Combat feels great as usual. If you're unfamiliar with this franchise, Monster Hunter is an action combat game with quite a lot of animation locking, and the idea behind this is that you're meant to learn the moves and attacks not only of your weapon sets, the weapons that you choose, but also the monsters you're fighting against, trying to use the windows of opportunity as a chance to strike. Generally speaking, this heavily punishes frequent spamming of attacks or poor positioning, but the more you play, the more you learn, improving with experience, which in the end is sort of its own reward, right? One new inclusion for Wilds is this focus mode. It's essentially a targeting option that lets you directly place attacks. On top of this, it reveals any weak points on monsters that you're fighting for you to strike. And then besides attacking with your weapon, there's other tools, like you've got the slinger and various ammos you can toss out that can be used to deal damage or distract monsters, as well as additional functionality. And then some other features in Wilds include your Palico companion, which is very helpful. They'll chase the monster around, smacking them occasionally with their weapon, but they also have utility skills like laying down traps and healing you when you're injured. And then a big new inclusion from Worlds is this new mount, which you can ride around manually, yeah, but also you can mark locations and it'll auto run, letting you do other things in the process, like check your map or sharpen your weapons. And then there's combat while mounted. You've got a few limited basic attacks you can do, melee and ranged, and there's even a dismount strike. And you're able to swap weapons while you're mounted, which is a whole new inclusion, letting you have 2 different weapons on a single hunt. Now, beyond hunting down the large roster of monsters, Wilds features the series' biggest play space to date, with these huge open areas that are completely freely explorable and interconnected into the other zones and biomes through several connecting points on the edges. The single zone that we've already seen was massive, broken up into different sections. Yeah, the overall play and hunt space of this one is much larger than World from what I've seen so far. It is the next Monster Hunter game. It is bigger with some new bells and whistles. Really can't go too wrong here. Monster Hunter Wilds is set to release on February 28th for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Okay, so that does it for the main games that I'm interested in this month, but we've got quite a few honorable mentions. Big Helmet Heroes. This is a 3D beat 'em up adventure featuring adorable knights. Character design here reminds me actually quite a lot of Castle Crashers. Maybe it's just their proportions, the fact that it's like a chibi design. Here's some of the key features of Big Helmet Heroes. They'll say you'll traverse expansive levels with vibrant backdrops and intricate design while battling through hordes of enemies, solving puzzles, and overcoming various environmental obstacles. It's got dynamic combat styles with 4 distinct options to choose from, each with their own unique abilities and weapons. Also worth noting, there's local co-op where you can play with up to 2 friends. Looks like a simple but fun little title to play around with. Big Helmet Heroes launches on February 6th for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. Tomb Raiders 4 through 6 are getting a remaster release this month. This includes the titles of The Last Revelation, Chronicles, and The Angel of Darkness. The trilogy has you following Lara on an adventure through Cairo, Rome, Paris, and more as you uncover secrets from her past. Now, the one new listed feature here is that you're going to have the option of using either classic or remastered mode, which lets you play on the original polygonal models or swap to some more updated graphics. The Tomb Raider 4 through 6 remaster, pretty straightforward. It launches on February 14th for PC. The Like a Dragon series marches forward with this latest installment that takes you on an over-the-top modern-day pirate adventure with an ex-Yakuza, now pirate captain, and his crew, engaging in combat on land and sea in a hunt for lost memories and treasure. These games are always so crazy sounding. The story here is that you are shipwrecked on a remote island in the Pacific. Unable to remember your name even, you set sail in search of clues to discover what happened, accompanied by a boy named Noah. But before not too long, you find yourself caught in a conflict between these cutthroat criminals, modern-day pirates, and other scoundrels over some legendary hidden treasure. You're going to assemble a crew while upgrading your ship. There's real-time ship combat with cannon battles. Dealing enough damage lets you board the enemy ships, then engaging in crew versus crew brawls. You're going to explore the seas in search of islands and the treasures they hold, with multiple fighting styles available that you can dynamically swap between. Yeah, these games are just always so nutty looking to me, and this one is no different, but you know, crazy in a good way though. Even from the outside, I definitely see the appeal. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii launches on February 20th for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. KAISERPUNK is a city builder grand strategy game set in an alternate 20th century world. The developer has said that this game focuses on production management and logistics that will challenge you to build and manage a city-state while expanding your influence across a dynamic, ever-changing global map. You'll shape your empire from the ground up, unlocking new buildings and upgrades, building on the ground and on water, with new tech getting unlocked depending on what and how you choose to build. As for the grand strategy elements, you will forge alliances and negotiate trade deals. There's over 100 regions to be conquered, each with their own bonuses and penalties. You'll assemble armies and take on rival factions in battles on land, sea, and air, with AI opponents ready to test your defenses and capabilities. All of this while also setting up production chains, managing logistics, and making choices that impact your playthrough. KAISERPUNK releases on February 27th for PC. Now, outside of those releases, there's actually a few noteworthy playtests that are happening this month. For starters, prior to its full release, we got a second round of open beta testing planned for Monster Hunter Wilds. That's right. The first one's going to start on February 6th, lasting until the 9th, and then a second round from February 13th going to the 16th. Now, this is going to include basically all of the same stuff from that first beta test, with the one new addition being a new monster for us to hunt. But beyond that, playing the beta also rewards you with some decorative charms and bonus item packs for when the game fully releases. But yeah, that's basically it. So if you played the last beta, you can play more of it. If you've not tried it out yet, this now gives you another opportunity to jump in and play a little bit prior to release. There's also a network test happening for Elden Ring Nightreign this month, beginning on February 10th. So this is the new game from Bandai Namco, and they've described it as a new standalone adventure within the Elden Ring universe. What does that mean? Well, there's not been much actual official info released on the game other than them referring to it as like this spin-off roguelike in the Elden Ring universe with co-op options. But I found a Reddit thread that actually gave some interesting details from someone who has seemingly played the game already. They say you start off as one of 8 pre-made characters rather than constructing your own from scratch. You will then choose a boss or target to take down before every match begins. And then the game is set over the course of 3 days with a mini boss at the end of the first 2 days, something like the Tree Sentinel was given as an example. You will upgrade before boss fights by exploring the randomized world, collecting various upgrades in the process. And then on the third and final day, you fight whatever the main target that you chose. You fight them and try to take them down. And then if you do that successfully, at the end of the match, you will reset to level 1, but taking some permanent upgrades, like permanent account-wide upgrades with you. Definitely something different and a new approach for the Souls franchise. We'll see how this lands. Again, the playtest will be beginning on February the 10th. I couldn't find an end date, but yeah, so try to get in on the 10th. All right, so that does it for this month's list. As for what I plan to play throughout the course of the month, well, for starters, definitely want to check out Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It's supposed to be a quite substantial game, bigger than the first, which was already pretty huge from what I've heard, so this should offer plenty of hours of entertainment. Avowed, it did seem pretty solid from the preview that I had. I really enjoyed the world and exploring and the gameplay. Didn't pay too much attention to the story, but the little bits I caught seemed interesting enough. But it's a cool fantasy setting, which is what I'm really all about. That plus enjoying the combat is more than enough for me. Curious to see how everything comes together. Of course, then there's Monster Hunter Wilds, which is about as close to a sure bet as it gets, really. Even if it's just Monster Hunter World, but bigger with a mount and weapon swapping, you can call me a happy camper. Really enjoyed World, so unless they somehow manage to massively screw things up, I suspect I will enjoy Wilds as well. And then Elden Ring Nightreign. I mean, I'm really curious about this. I know it's not exactly what many Souls fans seem to be wanting. I've seen quite a divisive response online to this game, but the idea of Bandai trying something new and giving a fresh spin on their Souls series, I mean, I've enjoyed quite a few roguelikes in the past, so for me, this could be a winning combination. And then time permitting, would be happy to check out some of the other stuff on this list as well. We shall see though. I will add, I finally moved on from my Path of Exile 2 obsession. It was a blast while it while it lasted, and I'm most certainly going to be hopping back in when the next major patch or leak starts. But for now, I put the brakes on. I'm all done. But anywho, my personal play stuff aside, that pretty much does it for today's video. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you are looking forward to playing this month that I just happened to miss and didn't make it on this list. Either way, hope you enjoyed. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.